I'm going to show you how to land a remote tech sales job paying 80 to 120K in the next 30 days, even if you have zero tech experience and no college degree. I was a tech sales hiring manager for 5 years. I've interviewed, hired, and trained hundreds of tech sales reps, and I can tell you for a fact, most of those people did not come from a tech background. In fact, they came from where you are right now. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact 30-day system my clients use to go from feeling stuck and overwhelmed to landing interviews and job offers in tech sales. So before we get into it, you have to understand the macro approach that you're taking right now is not working, because what you're probably doing is just mass applying, sending out spray and pray resumes everywhere you go, trying to land interviews. And actually what's happening is you're getting replies, but it's always the same email. Thank you for your interest. Unfortunately, we've decided to interview applicants who better align with the role. Those are automated emails. And the problem is if you're trying to just blast out resumes and land interviews and all you're getting back is automated rejections, you're not actually ever going to make progress. And so when people say that the job search is a numbers game, they're not wrong, but you're just running the wrong math. The number game you should be playing is more of a targeted numbers game. I agree that the job search is very much a numbers game. You have to get out a certain amount of quantity to increase the odds that you do get replies and bites on your applications. However, if all we're doing is quantity, then we're never going to get the engagement we want because we're not optimizing for quality. This is the same truth you'll find once you're in tech sales running actual outbound. You might be sending out 2,000 emails a day, making 200 phone calls a day, and just throttling quantity. But if you're not optimizing for quality of your outreach, you're not going to get any replies. And this is the spectrum. On one side, you've got the quantity, apply for as many jobs as you can and try to get some interviews. On the other side, you have people that say, well, you should really be hyper focused on one or two companies. Both of these are wrong. What you should be doing is finding that middle ground of consistent quantity every day. But those outreaches you're doing, those applications you're sending, how you're managing the interview and the pipeline process is very customized to the company. So quality increases. The proper math for tech sales applications is 10 to 15 per day. This gives you that balance of quantity and getting enough volume out per day while giving you margin to make that outreach quality, which we'll get into in a minute. And if you look at the math of 10 to 15 applications per day, that comes out to 50 to 75 applications per week and ultimately 200 to 300 applications per month. The difference is they are high quality applications that will get interviews. The number one key to being successful in your tech sales job search is consistency. If you can show up every single day, regardless of what you're seeing around you, the interviews you're not landing, all of those mental games, if you can push that to the side and show up and be consistent every single day, you will succeed. And the reason is because in sales, the hardest thing to do is remain level-headed. The highs are really high in sales. That's why we all want to be in sales. Really good paydays. You feel very accomplished and successful when you're doing well, but you'll also have weeks where you are not succeeding at all. And you start to get that imposter syndrome and you just feel like a failure. And so that up and down is what you have to learn how to master when you're in sales. And the beauty is during this application process, you get to master that skill set now. And so the way to approach this is to be relentlessly optimistic and to be relentlessly consistent. This principle is actually timeless. It's even found in the Bible. Jesus says that if you want good fruit from a good tree, then you have to focus on making the tree good. What is he saying? He's saying if you focus on the inputs and you make the inputs good, the outputs inevitably will be good. And so if you can focus on having a clean, disciplined, consistent job application process where you show up day in, day out, then you will be successful. And here's the other reality is that you have to embrace rejection. In fact, when I work with my clients, I tell them you should expect to see rejection emails come back from jobs you apply to. This is normal. This is sales. And if you're not cut out for that kind of rejection, then it's probably a good thing that you're not in sales. In fact, 90% of people give up on their tech sales job search within just the first 2 weeks because of this. So the only conclusion that person can draw is they're not going to be able to get into tech sales. It's too competitive. They don't have the experience. I'm going to give up and go find something else to get into. Now, this works out for you you as an advantage because the market gets less competitive the more you stick around. So instead of looking at the first 2 weeks of your job search as I need to land an offer, you need to reframe and look at it as I'm going to be planting seeds consistently. And I know that if I plant a good seed, a good tree will grow and good fruit will come. So what happens is instead of looking at weeks 1 and 2, like I've got to get a job offer or I'm not going to be successful, we want to reframe that and look at weeks 3 and 4 as, okay, I should start to have interviews now because of the work I did in weeks 1 and 2. So let's break this down week by week. Week 1 is all about preparing to go into battle. What you need to do in week 1 is focus on resume optimization, LinkedIn optimization, and make sure that your profile as a candidate is dialed. Because if you go into battle and you don't have your armor on and you're not prepared, you're just going to get obliterated. And that's what happens to most people. They don't take the time to prepare before they jump in. The second thing you should focus on in week 1 is getting into the rhythm and the pattern of applying to jobs consistently. Again, the number one key is consistency. So week 1 is all about getting ready for battle and also starting to take your first few steps of consistency, aiming for that 10 to 15 job apps per day target where you end week 1 with around 50 to 75 job apps that you've sent out. This is all about planting seeds. Don't expect any wins yet. Now in week 2, you've built a foundation of consistency that you're going to keep building on. So keep going for those 10 to 15 job apps per day, but you're going to start to add in what nobody else is doing. And that is the actual outreach of doing the job to get the job. See, most people just throw in an application and cross their fingers and wait to hear back from a hiring manager. That's not how this works. If you want a job offer within 30 days, what you need to be doing is calling, texting, emailing, on LinkedIn, sending videos to these hiring managers. That's what gets their attention, and that's what separates you from the 99% of other people applying for these jobs. Now that we've consistently planted quality seed in week 2, you're going to start to see some of those seeds sprout in week 3. You're going to get invites to do interviews. You're going to get feedback from managers. Hey, I really appreciate your outreach. This is great. I want to set some time up with you. And so you're going to move into that phase of preparing for interviews. But the key is that you do not stop building your pipeline. You remain consistent, applying to 10 to 15 jobs per day, regardless of how much interview prep you have to do. This is a big problem I see with people trying to get into tech sales is they'll land 2, 3 interviews and they'll stop applying. The problem is that you're neglecting your future pipeline and you're hurting yourself because odds are you're not going to get the first job offer that you interview with. And so if you're just putting all your eggs into the basket of 3 job interviews, what happens if you don't move forward in any of those interviews? You just shot yourself in the foot, and now we're starting all the way back over to week 1. So don't get comfortable. Keep growing your pipeline. Do not neglect it. I tell my clients all the time, even when they have 5, 10 interviews, don't stop applying because the only person that hurts is you. So as we move into week 4, now you've been interviewing, you're probably mid to late stage with a couple companies, and you're honing in on your first job offer. So if you follow this system to the T of week 1, 2, 3, and 4, you should end up at the end of week 4 having late stage interviews where you're starting to negotiate different offers. By the way, if you want a deeper dive on this exact system and what to actually say to hiring managers, how to prepare for interviews, how to do all of that, there's a link in the description below you can grab to a free training that breaks down step by step how to do all of this. Earlier, I mentioned quality applications. What does quality applications actually mean? Well, it's definitely not mass blasting applications out, and it's also not hyper focusing on just 5 companies and going all in on those 5 companies. We're looking for that happy medium of quantity and quality. And the way we achieve this is by doing the job to get the job. Here's a real world example of why this actually matters. For the last job I posted, we got 387 applicants. And out of the 387 applicants, only 68 people hit me up on LinkedIn. That's 18% of the total population. And then we had 13 people email me, 3% of the population. 10 people texted me, 3%. And I only got 9 cold calls, 2% of the population for a full-time cold calling role. 7 voicemails, and we ended up with 3 videos being sent through out of 387 people. What did this end up with? 15 recruiter interviews, 5 people that met with me. I sent 2 people to leadership. We hired 1. That gives you a 0.1% chance of being hired. And this is why it's so important that you are not just applying to a job and moving on without doing any quality outreach afterwards. In fact, my buddies who are also hiring managers, they had similar results where we had had 250 people applying over here, and it ended up with one interview and offer out of 61 people they met with. And then down here, my buddy Elijah, crazy numbers. He had 2,000 applicants and only 15 people contacted him through email. 8 people reached out to him on LinkedIn and only 4 people cold called him. So if this is what you're doing and what you're guilty of, just applying to a job and doing nothing else, you need to step it up. Once you start doing these quality applications, you're going to get a ton of positive feedback from managers and recruiters, and you're going to start landing interviews quickly. In fact, a common occurrence with my own clients is that they'll land too many interviews. For example, I've got Jay here. Jay is a client who had a tiny bit of real estate experience, and he was working as a chemist doing some other thing, and he wanted to get into tech sales. Within just 30 days, we were able to get him 2 tech sales offers, and this is what he had to say. He felt like he had way too many interviews multiple times throughout this process because of how effective this system is. So you can choose your heart. Do you want too many interviews and not enough time to prep for them, or do you want to do what you've been doing and have no interviews and just keep applying to the black hole of tech sales? Once you start landing all these interviews, you need a system for tracking them. Now, we do not track job applications in my program because it's a waste of time. You are doing a lot of quantity every day. I'm not expecting you to go in every day, put down the name of the company you applied to, their company LinkedIn profile. We don't need to do that. It's a complete waste of time. The only jobs you need to keep track of are the ones you have actual interviews with. So this interview checklist is what my clients use to stay on top of all of their interviews. What we see here is we see the company listed out. We see when the next interview day and time is so they can stay organized. And then within the actual checklist, I have a step-by-step guide for how they need to prepare for every single interview before and after the interview. And we can see on the top that they're grouped by what kind of interview it is. So this is the recruiter stage, for example. We've got the hiring manager stage, we've got the peer interview stage, and the leadership stage. So that way, when they're going through their interviews, every single time they can make sure they're checking the boxes so they don't miss any detail of the interview process to ensure that they're going to be the one that's getting that offer at the end. And it's this exact system that has my clients landing job offers in 36 days on average with a 99% success rate. No tech experience, and in many cases, no college degree. Now, the outreach process for how to do these high quality applications will vary, but to give you a high level view of what we do in my program is we have a 14-step sequence that touches every channel we can to get in touch with these hiring managers and recruiters. We start with LinkedIn and we look for any connections we have to those people to try to get some warm intros. We then move to LinkedIn, we send a connection request, we interact with any recent posts they have. That way our name and our headshot is popping up on their LinkedIn. We're starting to build some familiarity. We then send some emails out. We make some phone calls. We send a text message. We then message them on LinkedIn a couple days later, make another call a couple days later, send an email, send a LinkedIn message, and we basically finish that out with an email, a phone call, and then one more LinkedIn message. So what we're trying to do is what's called multi-channel outbound. We don't know if these people check LinkedIn, so we also need to get on the phone. We don't know if they pick up phone calls from strangers, so we need to send them an email. We don't know if they check their email, so we need to try to send them maybe a text or a video through LinkedIn. Whatever we can do to get in touch with our prospect is exactly what we need to do, and it's exactly what you'll be doing as a rep in tech sales. The main thing to remember is that you're already going to differentiate yourself a ton if you are doing any of this, because again, only 18% of the people that applied to my job reached out on LinkedIn. Only 2% of people decided to pick the phone up and make a phone call. So if you can be part of that 18 or 2%, you're miles ahead of everyone else. To show you how crazy effective this process is, I've got an example to walk you through of my client Robert, who actually started in law enforcement. He was actually a security officer, worked at Olive Garden, and then for years he served the Arlington PD as an officer with no tech background, not even a sales background. And in just 20 days, we helped him land a great tech sales role, paying over $75K a year. So if we look at his timeline using Slack as a reference, we can see that he came into the program around October 28th. We got jamming on his resume. We got his resume and his LinkedIn all dialed in, squared away. And he started sending out applications on October 29th. So with our help, we were able to get his resume and LinkedIn updated in a day, and he was off to the races applying to jobs. Robert started doing outreach, and actually the next day on October 30th, he got a call back from a recruiter that told him about an SDR position in Dallas. So already within 2 days, he's starting to get feedback and land interviews. Actually, on the 31st, he landed another interview with another company. If we keep going down there, here we can see on November 2nd, he's working through the pipeline, trying to find LinkedIn connections, leveraging those. And boom, on November 3rd, he got another interview scheduled already. And he has an interview at 10 a.m. Friday. He wasn't sure if he should double schedule on Friday. Again, this is where things get really busy. And so now we're working more of the process, and he gets confirmation on November 4th for another Friday interview. So 2 hours in between each company to interview. We did a lot of interview prep together to get him ready for the 3 interviews. And ultimately on Friday, one of them got rescheduled, but the 2 others happened and he crushed them. He then got another interview scheduled for November 9th and had a lot going on, 2 more interviews on the 10th. And fast forward to the 12th, he got more interviews. So at this point, he's only about 2 weeks in and he's got 6 total interviews that he's in. We keep working through the process, and boom, on November 19th, he gets his first offer, $75K OT tech sales role with a background in law enforcement and Olive Garden. He ends up accepting that offer, and voila, within 20 days, we just took him from no experience in tech to a great job offer where he can start a career that he can build on from here on out. So there it is. If you want to break into tech sales and you don't have experience or a college degree, you just need to send out 10 to 15 quality applications per day and go crush those interviews. This 30-day system works. It works so well, you might have too many interviews and you might end up landing a job offer in 20 days instead of 30. Now, if you want help breaking into tech sales and you know you need help implementing everything I just talked about, again, in the description below is a free training that shows you step by step how to do this in a way more detailed way that's going to bring you results. We'll see you on the next one.